Story 1, he committed suicide. We were best friends for over 20 years, and it still came out of the blue. Some people are really good at holding things in. Thanks to everyone offering condolences. It has been 13 years since then. You move on, you make new friends, even very close friends, but it is not quite the same as a guy you grew up with. It is like that quote from the end of Stand By Me. I never had any friends later on like the ones I had when I was 12. Jesus, does anyone check on your brothers? Story 2. He decided to start dating my abusive former spouse less than a month after I had the courage to leave, despite me expressing to him for about a year all the terrible things she did. Story 3. He moved to the other side of the country, and neither of us is the kind of person who talks on the phone a lot, so the friendship just withered. Story 4. This one's tough because it's pretty recent. Best friends since high school around 2000. We were absolutely inseparable. I was the best man at his wedding and vice versa. It was the kind of friendship where we could finish each other's sentences. Anytime either of us needed the other, no questions asked, we were there. Aside from my wife and kids, I would always say that he is the only person I would do absolutely anything for. Fast forward to this year, he got a divorce and just won't speak to me. Ghosted me twice. I have no idea if he's okay or not. It seems like he's intentionally ignoring and avoiding not just me, but also others within our circle. I know he's alive because of his social media activity, but he just won't respond or reach out. I told him that I was going through some things and could really use his shoulder for a bit, and it was silence. I don't know what I did or why this is happening. Just crickets. I'm at the point where I can't continue to chase ghosts. So yeah, lost my best friend of more than 20 years for completely unknown reasons. Story 5. At the beginning of my divorce, my now ex reached out to all my lifelong friends, telling absolute lies about me, including cheating and physical abuse. My best friend and his wife took my ex's side at face value and cut me off. After the divorce was finalized, the truth came out. Her attorney had given her a plan to portray me negatively, aiming to alienate and stress me out from my support system in order to manipulate me into giving in to their demands. By then, the damage was done. Story 6. He started spreading his seed far and wide without worrying about raising his harvest. He got 3 women pregnant at the same time, and then another one a few years later. He lives a lonely life in a camper somewhere in the mountains, and all 4 of his children do not know him. It is too hard to keep up with him. Story 7. Best friends from age 3 to about 20. He stopped answering the phone when I called and never responded to texts. I met his mother for lunch once when I was about 25, and he showed up late without warning. After lunch, he appeared at my car window just before I drove away and asked me for money. That was about 15 years ago, and I have not seen or heard from him since. I still receive calls from his mother and check in on her about once a week. Story 8. He was my best friend in college. We lived together for 2 years in the dorms, and a few months after graduation, I helped him get a job at the company I had started working for. He moved to my city so we could find an apartment together. We ended up living and working together for another 3 to 4 years. Then he started dating a girl who actively disliked me. I got tired of her treating me badly and of him never defending me when the 3 of us were hanging out. When the 2 of them moved into their own place, I let the friendship fade. Why she hated me is a mystery. My best guess is that she blamed me for him being a pothead, even though I barely smoked pot and only ever when he offered me a hit. Story 9. I stopped drinking and partying. He said I must not do that. I would have to drink. Sorry, M. I am not drowning with you, but I can help you stop drinking. Just give me a call. Story 10. He stole $5,000 from my wife and me. We hired him to do some work that he never completed. He is gone. Do not steal from me. Story 11. He started talking to me less and inviting me to game with him less. I noticed he was still playing with his other friends during this time, and very frequently. These were people I also became friends with through him, but I guess they decided they didn't like me, and I was slowly kicked out of their groups and Discord server over time. I confronted my friend about it, and he just shrugged it off like he couldn't do anything about it. There were no attempts to play one-on-one with me, and he always had excuses about being busy when I asked. It hurt at the time and still kind of does. I met him on Xbox in 4th grade for both of us, met up in person over the years, and eventually went on a cross-country road trip together to backpack for 2 whole weeks. I used to reach out every once in a while and hope to rekindle the friendship, but it never succeeded. He was the closest thing I had to a childhood friend that lasted into adulthood, and I cherished it. Looking back, I don't think he valued the friendship the same way I did. Story 12. My best friend and I broke up for a long time and are finally reconnecting, and it feels amazing. His girlfriend, now wife, had their child when we were all 20. He did the right thing and went into dad mode, putting caring for his son before everything else, including our friendship. I was an idiot and couldn't see at that time what was happening, so I talked a little nonsense, and he did too. It ended with a verbal fallout, and some nasty things were said. This was 2006. Fast forward to this January, and my father passed away. A few hours after the family made the announcement, my messaging app said, "Mike calling, my old best friend." I picked up and just started bawling. He said, "I'm on the way, homie." He came over and just held me while I wept like a baby. My father was like a second dad to him, so while I cried, he cried as well. We sat down to talk a little after the crying, and now, having my own kids, I realized what he was doing back in our 20s, so I apologized to him for being a jerk. I also had him call his wife so I could apologize to her as well. We ended up talking well into the early morning hours, traded proper phone numbers, and have been texting a lot, catching up. Feels good to have him back in my life. Story 13. I am an immigrant. He said if it were up to him, he would put my entire family in a gas chamber. We were friends all through school, but I immediately removed him from my life. Story 14. I stopped drinking. I lost all my friends in terms of hanging out. Now, everyone is just a social media acquaintance. Story 15. I went all in on my dreams and started my own business. He focused on safety, and our lives became very different from then on. We stopped partying and going to the gym together. I quit drinking. We still talk from time to time, but not weekly anymore. He is still a brother, but we just lost touch. Thanks for the reminder. I will drop him a text. Story 16. Went to see Moonlight with him to test the waters of telling him I was bisexual. The first thing he said afterward was, "I think I might be homophobic." I came out to him a little later despite reservations. He started questioning all the times we had all-nighters in college and ended up tops and tails in the same bed. I was really hurt by this and never bounced back. We drifted apart after that. We had a lot of good times together, some of the most fun I've ever had, but he was the first person I came out to, and it was sent right back in my face. Story 17. He went through 2 breakups back to back and started using hardcore drugs. I tried to keep him busy by playing soccer with him and making him laugh, which he appreciated. He reached a breaking point where he cut everyone off, including me. For months, I was left confused and a little betrayed. I remembered how much I had lost myself and neglected my own mental health. After reflecting and trying to heal from my own problems, months later he came back to ask about life and wanted to hang out. He was already a bad influence on me, and I would start doing things I never thought I would do. I told him that I couldn't continue being around him anymore, as it really affected my mind. He was my best friend for 10 years, by the way. Story 18. He became a preacher and got married. It was never stated, but his strange actor atheist friend did not really fit into where he was going, so they drifted apart. Story 19. He died. He asked for advice on how to go his own way. I advised him. Now he is dead. I haven't had a close male friend since and probably won't have one ever again. Men's humor and men's calls for help are too similar. I am not smart enough to know the difference. Story 20. I had a whole group of such friends. We were not a political group back in college, but gradually politics became a part of our conversations, especially in online group chat, with the pandemic being a catalyst for many of us. I had a tendency to love debate for its own sake, so I latched onto opportunities simply because they excited me and made me feel extremely engaged. Once politics entered our conversations, I was pushing buttons without realizing it, engaging in genuine arguments just because I enjoyed the clash of perspectives. They did not like that. While there were a few warning signs, I ignored them. Eventually, it came to a head, and the majority of the group decided by consensus that I needed to be removed, with the rest agreeing. That was 2 years ago, and we had all been friends for more than a decade prior. I still miss them, but I had to learn that my friend group was not simply a playground for me to do whatever I pleased. It was an important lesson, but it came at a high cost. Story 21. He became obsessed with his ex to the point where she placed a restraining order on him. He kept making new accounts to stalk her. It was very obsessive and disturbing. His family and friends told him to stop, but he could not. Story 22. He got married 2 years ago, the best thing that ever happened to him. Otherwise, he was turning into a hermit. I have seen him more in the past couple of years than I did in the 20 prior. But as with all my male friends, we are guys. We never really break off the friendship, we just lose contact. If we run into each other somewhere, we can connect like it was yesterday. Story 23. He got married to his girlfriend and didn't even bother to tell me. Not that I was expecting an invitation, but I would have still sent a present or a card at least. Story 24. I had 2 close friends when I was a teenager. I quit drinking alcohol at the age of 42 and realized we had nothing in common anymore. I also became more aware of the passive-aggressive bullying I was subjected to for many years, which was dismissed as banter. I would crave acceptance and try to fit in. Now, they do not fit into my life anymore, and I am much happier without them. In fact, it is a bit of a relief. Story 25. He got hooked on methamphetamine, accused me of stalking both him and his girlfriend, accused me of breaking into his girlfriend's house and trying to strangle him to death. I was arrested at gunpoint after being stopped by the police while working in my car. I was remanded in custody before getting bail after a month, waited 18 months for a trial, and was acquitted by the jury in 20 minutes. This totally ruined every part of my life, having such horrific charges hanging over me, and I am still paying for it now. Story 26. He adopted an extreme right-wing mindset, so I decided to end the friendship due to vastly different value systems. Story 27. I moved about an hour away, so the friendship has changed to sending memes and the occasional news article or Facebook Marketplace item the other would enjoy. We are both married with young adult children. Life sure gets in the way of social plans. Story 28. My friends K, S, L, D, and I had a terrible experience with a girl named C. Friend J had heard some about it but was not directly involved. After everything escalated with C and we realized she was creating a rift between us, J decided to get involved with her. We warned him, but he did not listen. He disappeared into her deception for a year, and it was much longer before he reconnected with the group. We have reconciled and talk occasionally, but he was like a brother to me. I actually lived with him and his parents for a while. Now, we speak maybe once a year. Story 29. Not sure. He just stopped talking to me. Then, about a year later, he got married. I found out from one of our mutual friends. Neither of us were invited to the wedding. He said he did not want to be friends with me. Then, he moved across the country with a woman. That was after 20 years of being friends. I have no idea why he decided that. It seems like there were control issues in his relationship because he cut off all of his good friends and moved out of town. Story 30. I think he came out as gay and stopped communicating with the rest of us. I understand that it must have been very difficult to come out, but I am sad I lost my friend because of it. I am very supportive of people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and others, and I really believe we would still be good friends if he had not cut off contact. I think of him from time to time and hope he is doing really well. Story 31. He lost it. Everything out of his mouth was pure bile. Just so much negativity about everything. He fell too far into far-right ideologies. It came to a head over comments he made about Greta Thunberg. Such vile language I have never heard in my life. Such absolute hate. I am not a fan of hers, but his comments were unhinged. We had a heated argument about it in our group chat. One of my other friends backed me up and also lost it at him. I found out later he had been holding back for weeks. After some serious back and forth, he said he was leaving our group chat, so I helped by removing him. I have not spoken to him since. It ended a 35-year relationship that day, all because he could not keep his harmful opinions to himself. I will never understand how one person can have that much hate in them. Story 32. He moved to California to attend school for writing. He is trying to start a career. I try sending him texts and it would take a while, but he would reply. He has not responded in some time now. I love him and hope he is safe and sound. Story 33. He tried to get with my ex-fiancée within a week of us splitting up before she even moved out. Edit. I realized I have a few of these, but only one more is worth mentioning. He turned out to be abusive. He got into a very toxic relationship. I have no idea what happened to him along the way, but that definitely was not the type of person he was for the 15 or so years I knew him before. I can only assume that was in him the whole time, and after hitting the gym, he just developed the confidence to cross the line. Story 34. We were 3 best friends who started online. We never called ourselves that, but it felt like it. At some point, we became 5. The other 2 were simply guys who fought against the same thing and formed a very strong bond after that. Years passed. At one point, this friend who was very introverted in person started to make friends in his college. The 5 of us were not only not within close proximity of each other, but we were also in different stages of our lives. 2 of us were students. The rest were already working. Eventually, I also found a job in my graduating year and then graduated. He probably felt left behind and started leaning more towards his fellow classmates. I can't speak for what really happened, especially from his perspective, but there was one event where we invited him to a beach trip. He used to not be able to go because of money but spent a lot on games, and one of the other 3 in the circle pointed that out. That probably pissed him off. He left our group chat and we have never talked since. It's weird because I'm probably the one he spent the most time talking with among us, but now I am the only one who hasn't talked to him since he left. I just felt that whether it was poor decision-making on his end or not, I wanted him to own what he did. It's a shame because we really have been through a lot as a group, but sometimes that's just how it is. Story 35. I joined the military, and over time we drifted apart. He met a woman, got married, moved to another state, and had 2 children. They are busy people and do not have social media. I am not mad. I am proud of the life he has. He is an active and loving father and husband. He is a happy person as far as I know. That is all I could ever want for a friend. Story 36. He moved schools and things went downhill from there. We were best friends from elementary school to high school. Story 37. I grew up with this guy when I was 6, and I think we were best friends until high school. Then we just grew apart. He got into a class and developed different interests than me. He pursued becoming an electrician in high school. I forgot the name for that specific type of school. I have always loved sports and being athletic, so I went a different way and made new friends in football. He made new friends as well. Occasionally, when we see each other, we talk for 5 to 30 minutes over coffee. But that's it. Story 38. Lost because he moved to a different country, he never replied to me. Despite trying to contact him nonstop for 2 years, I eventually lost interest in him. That is how 12 years of friendship went down the drain. Another loss due to some misunderstanding, the reason for which I still do not know. But I am fine now. Story 39. Nothing really happened. We both just moved on and no longer had time for each other as friends. The types of friends I want now are very different from the types of friends I wanted when I was younger. Story 40. He joined the United States Navy and was deployed to a submarine for months at a time. I saw him long enough to be the best man at his wedding and again some years later when his mother passed away, but I have not heard from him since. Story 41. He was otherwise a great guy, but he had a problem with alcohol, and when it took over, he became someone else. He hospitalized every girlfriend he had been with. He was very sorry the next day, but he would go straight back to drinking that weekend. You never knew where you stood with him once the beer started flowing, and I was constantly on edge. The final straw was the latest girlfriend calling me, screaming for help. I barely knew her, but I could hear him smashing up the house as she ran out the front door. We went back the next day and he was gone. Then he called me, sobbing and apologizing, and I just told him to leave me alone. This was a guy who, when sober, was the best person to be around, always up for everything, always helpful and able to do anything. He just couldn't say no to a beer. Story 42. Nothing, because I only have one male best friend and we are still friends. However, this friend lost one of his closer friends a few years ago. This close friend came out as gay, seemingly out of nowhere. My friend said there were no signs or tells that he was gay beforehand, like there sometimes are. My friend hung out with him a couple of times after that, and then he just disappeared completely. He stopped talking to everybody in their circle and deleted, deactivated, and otherwise stopped using all his social media accounts. He even seemed to get a new phone number. One day, after not being able to contact his friend for a couple of months, my friend went to see his friend's parents, since he knew them well, to ask what was going on. They told him they knew what was happening and that he was safe and all right, but he said that if they told anyone about the situation, he would cut contact with them too. My friend then left their house, has not talked to them since, and has heard absolutely nothing from his friend. My friend said that, as far as he is concerned, his friend is dead until proven otherwise. Story 43. He was a terrible father and I told him so. He missed the birth of his son to attend a non-paying gig for his artistic work. He said it was not a big deal, and after all, he had asked his wife and she said it was fine. Later, he dropped the little boy off with us for an overnight stay. He and his wife were taking a trip to the coast, when he clearly had a sinus infection and was in misery, but he really wanted a night off. When we called and said they needed to come get their son because he did not deserve to be away from his parents in a new house overnight while he was sick, we received complaints about how much he needed this break. Later, after his wife picked him up, I called to ask how the child was doing. I got into a disagreement with my friend and said he needed to sort out his priorities and think about what it means to be a good father. He responded defensively. I wrote him a 5-page letter describing his selfishness as a parent and sent it. A messy divorce followed, and we spoke a couple more times. But the damage and mutual disrespect were impossible to ignore. The kicker: they named their son after me. My first name is his middle name. Both of his parents lost contact, and I believe he is in the care of his stepfather with occasional visits from his biological mother, who loves him but is not equipped to care for him. Poor boy. I reach out to his relatives occasionally to see how he is doing, but it is one of those things that is too sad and too far away for me to spend much time on. I am going to reach out and see how he is doing. Story 44. He became more distant and blocked most of his friends and family on social media. He was a longtime fan of conspiracy theories. We used to hang out and discuss our love for the X-Files. The explosion of podcasts influenced him and he went off the deep end. He ended up in debt and was fired from his job for trying to sell his pure body fluids to customers on the side. Story 45. Best friend from 3rd grade. He was socially inept and awkward. He had difficulty reading social cues or the mood in the room. I tried everything, changed his clothes and got his hair cut, but our lifestyles diverged, and I felt he was clinging to the friendship too much since I was his only friend. When I became a law enforcement officer working overnight shifts, I ended the friendship abruptly because he would call me all day. He was at work while I was trying to sleep. No communication helped. Story 46. We opened a business together. About 6 months in, I had 4 very close friends pass away within 6 weeks. It obviously affected me a lot. During this time, he also greatly increased his marijuana and pill intake, taking about 6 Xanax pills a day and smoking constantly. He was impossible to work with. This caused a lot of friction, and the sadness around my friends' deaths made the whole situation difficult. He told me that I had a choice: either get over my friends' deaths or leave the business during an argument about his performance at work. I immediately packed my things and left, closing the door on the business and the relationship. Since then, the other partners have slowly dropped out as well, and I have heard that he has fallen into an even bigger drug problem. Story 47. They were not progressing in their life, and at the end of our friendship, I realized I was just using him as an excuse to do the same. Story 48. Still not really sure. We were supposed to go to a college party in another town an hour and a half away, and we planned to sleep either at the house or in the car. He had to work early the next morning, so I said he should drive since getting up and driving back early was something he needed. This upset him, and we never spoke again. We were best friends, practically attached at the hip before that. Story 49. He decided he wanted to move to a different city and was willing to leave his wife and special needs daughter to do it, which never sat right with me. Once he left, he got really into men going their own way and focused on bettering himself and avoiding women, as they caused too many issues. I haven't spoken to him in about 8 years. Story 50. One day we were hanging out talking, and I realized that I just wanted him to be quiet. Nothing triggered the change. Slowly over time, I found him more and more annoying until I dreaded hanging out with him, so I stopped making plans. He was never one to organize anything himself, so we just stopped talking after that. Story 51. I was good-naturedly complaining about coworkers through Google Talk, and he responded, "If all you are going to do is complain about your life and not do anything to fix it, I don't want to hear it anymore." So I logged out and never logged back in. He made up stories about things I said or did and talked about me behind my back to other friends, so I just stopped talking to him. I appreciated the friendship while it lasted, and I appreciate that the friendship is now behind me. Story 52. He developed a severe drug addiction and refused to get help. We had done the usual drinking and smoking as teenagers, but after I joined the Navy, he started using many pills and eventually heroin. He was arrested several times for possession and petty crimes. We all begged him to seek help, but he would not consider it. Finally, I told him he was on a path I could not follow and that I had to protect myself and my military career. He continued to use drugs and have run-ins with the police until he finally died following an overdose and a serious infection. I hope you finally found peace, Steve. Story 53. He got his 17-year-old employee addicted to cocaine and used her for sex. He is serving a long prison sentence, but it does not seem sufficient for the betrayal, let alone the crime. Story 54. My best friend in high school had a friend who molested my friend's younger cousin. He basically slut-shamed her and stayed friends with the offender. I couldn't trust someone like that and certainly couldn't stay friends with him. I told him exactly why I was cutting him off and never talked to him again. Story 55. He got a girlfriend for the first time in over 15 years. I was hosting an event and she was vegan. I talked to her about what I could cook for her. He got jealous and possessive and threw a fit. I was married at the time and he stopped talking to me. She ended up breaking up with him due to his turbulent emotions, and the friendship has never been the same. Story 56. I had given my best friend's daughter a reasonable amount to start a business. I never thought of it again. 10 years later, he came to me and said I would be surprised how much that investment was worth. I was dealing with a cancer diagnosis at the time. Shortly afterward, his daughter approached me to buy me out. I accepted, and shortly thereafter the business was sold for 5 times more than what my best friend had told me it was worth. Story 57. He got married to a very controlling woman. He attended my wedding, but in hindsight, I probably should not have invited him. I occasionally chatted with him via text and had lunch with him once. He and his wife could not have children due to health issues on her part. He obviously stayed with her. She got better and divorced him. From what I have gathered, she wanted either an open relationship or to see other men. I tried reaching out to him, but it went nowhere. He is doing well in his career. I have no real desire to reach out again. Story 58. He did not grow up, and the things he would do that I had trouble with became more pronounced. He and I spent our childhood together, and he was always a really fun guy. His only drawback was that he was ridiculously selfish. It rarely affected our friendship as kids, and I learned to accept it when it did. Then he and I went separate ways for university and lost touch, especially as he moved to South Korea to teach English and I was establishing a career in North America. About a decade later, he emailed out of the blue saying he was coming back and wanted to visit my wife and me. Great. He showed up with his lovely South Korean wife, whom he treated poorly, and a gigantic drinking problem. He basically used our place as a crash pad while he went drinking every night, leaving his wife with us. She was shy and stayed in her room the entire time. During the day, when he was not drinking, he tried to dictate everything we would do, where we would go, what we would eat. It was really bizarre. Anyway, we got through it and I took them to the airport. She divorced him shortly after that. He is now married again, this time with kids, and from his social media posts, I can catch hints that he is still using the people and world around him to do his bidding. Weird and sad. Story 59. Oh boy, he started dating his stepmother, and she did not like me because she preferred people she could manipulate as her friend circle. Admittedly, I did not help things by saying he should get ordained as a priest so his half-siblings had a legitimate reason to stop calling him brother and start calling him father. Story 60. Smartest guy I knew. He didn't study for tests and could figure out most things through intuition. He was considered our group expert in college and was a very good friend to me. The thing is, he didn't bother studying because he kind of knew most things. He never really learned much. All of our less intelligent friends, including me, went on to study narrow fields and become experts. It doesn't matter how smart you are. You can't intuitively grasp chemistry, for example. Our group expert watched all of his friends surpass him in their own knowledge and then become successful in their fields. He, on the other hand, still presumed he knew everything and would try to correct people on their field of expertise. They would then make it clear that he didn't actually know what he was talking about. Being the expert was so core to his identity that he became resentful of us and our success. He actively sought a new peer group to be smarter than. I could tell specific stories, but this post is long enough. The short version: there are multiple types of intelligence. Just because somebody is smart in one way doesn't mean that aptitude translates to anything else. Story 61. Definitely using my throwaway for this one, but my ex was best friends with this guy, Jay. They had been best friends since they were little kids, and he was in the Navy, lifelong single. He ended up getting stationed near our city, and he and I quickly became best friends, hanging out almost every day. He met a girl, had a couple of kids, and my ex and I actually moved closer to them. He always had this plan. He would do 20 years in the Navy and then come with me. I am in management for a home builder. Around 2020 and the height of COVID-19, my ex snapped. She got hard into drinking and drugs and eventually cheated. We split, I moved out, and a few months later started dating a new girl. He tried everything he could to sabotage it, making up stories about her, being completely rude to her when he saw her, and secretly trying to get my ex and me back together. I tried to explain that my ex had crushed me. She had cheated before, and I had taken her back once. I was not going to do it again. Either way, he still attacked my new girlfriend, finally making her cry once. When I told him he had crossed a line and needed to apologize to her, he agreed. We planned on coming to a cookout he was having. My girlfriend did not want to go, but I told her he wanted to apologize, so she went along. Instead, he laid into her again, and we left. Additionally, he got really weird in other ways, arguing with others. He got out of the military and came to work with me and would argue with random field employees. He told other workers he was unhappy and thought I had misled him about the job. We talked, and I told him it would probably be best if he just left. Around that same time, he began looking at ways to exploit veteran disabilities. He always bragged that he would get 50% of his military pay for life once he retired. Suddenly, that was not enough. He went online somewhere and found pages dedicated to increasing disability claims. He spent a couple of months flying around the country, and between several different doctors and diagnoses of acid reflux, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and sleep apnea, he is now 100% disabled. He started his own company and brags about how good life is now and will occasionally text to remind me how he is making more than I am now. So yeah, I'm done with that guy. Story 62. He just left and did not say anything. He returned after 2 years expecting nothing to have changed, but I could not accept that. Story 63. I got married and had a settled life. He became less settled and moved far away. But it is better this way. Story 64. He became a hardcore supporter of former President Donald Trump. His personality was influenced by this, and he cannot keep that name out of a casual conversation. Story 65. We were friends from when I upgraded high school courses, and he became a narcissistic person. He would post 4 or 5 selfies a day of himself and talk as if he were the coolest person on earth. He became misogynistic and spoke about women as if they all wanted him and owed him their bodies. The breaking point was when he asked me to post a video on his behalf to impress a girl online. We got into an argument and harshly criticized each other. He did not handle it well and I blocked him. I have not thought about him much since. Story 66. He tried to break up my brother and his girlfriend and steal the girlfriend. My brother and his girlfriend have been married for 17 years now. Story 67. His alcoholism affected his life. He refused to acknowledge the problem, and all activities had to involve drinking. As I have grown older, I drink less and less. I tried for years to help. Story 68. He went to prison for armed robbery and served about 20 years. I tried reconnecting with him after he was released in 2024, but it is not the same. I have reached out but never hear from him. We are in the same county. Story 69. He decided to become an abusive monster to his family and tried to recruit me to help him essentially kidnap his own children. He left out all the parts leading up to this. My wife advised me to call his wife to find out the real truth of the matter. He had been cheating on her with several other women, terrorized his children, and had hurt her badly. We ended up calling the police, and I had to testify against him. She is now our friend, he is not. I regret nothing, he did this to himself. Story 70. He took his pregnant fiance's car to the city to cheat on her with a sex worker. He was secretly using cocaine, lost his temper at a slow-pitch game he said he refused to attend but came just to heckle his own team. He tried to fight me in the parking lot and then attempted to harm me at 6 a.m. on my way to work while he was being driven to his driving under the influence court. Story 71. He became suicidal after his girlfriend of several years ended their relationship because he was emotionally abusive. She was a good friend of mine. We were seniors in high school. When he eventually returned from the psychiatric hospital, he started using drugs, beginning with marijuana but eventually switching to heroin. We all began distancing ourselves from him. I think he eventually quit the hard drugs, but he just became a stoner with no direction. I tried reaching out to him and hanging out, but it was never really the same. Story 72. My best friend of 15 years let me down when I separated from a difficult ex, and he did not support me because his wife was friends with her. You need your friends to back you up, even if it means upsetting their partner. Story 73. Canceled being in my wedding the day before. No reason, just a text that said he would not be there. Luckily, I did not have to scramble to find anyone to take his place. A few days later, he told me he could not take off work because he could not afford it. Okay, fine. 2 weeks later, he is in Colorado for a 2-week vacation. Story 74. He slept with and had a child with my ex. She is married to someone else. I know it was him because she came to me wanting me to get her pregnant since we already have a child together. But she realized her husband could not do it. I turned her down. When I saw the child, I instantly knew. My former best friend has 5 boys, now 6, and the next oldest is 30. I watched them all grow up. I should say ex-best friend because we no longer have any contact. I keep their secret, but I told my son about it, and he would never reveal his mother. Story 75. He befriended alt-right individuals who influenced the group to express transphobic views. He repeatedly said, "I wouldn't mind getting your sloppy seconds on that one," whenever I brought a woman around. Story 76. After years of me telling him he should sell his art and stop living with his parents, and him telling me it was not good enough, which it absolutely was, I told him he did not have the courage to do it. That ended a 25-year friendship. Story 77. Lost touch due to a long-term loss of internet access and gaming as a shared hobby. We just drifted apart, and both stopped trying. I played my part too, and I could have tried harder. He was an amazing friend who stuck by me. I do miss the friendship and would not be where I am today without him. I learned a lot. I wish him the absolute best. Story 78. He became addicted to cocaine and was ashamed of his habit. This caused him to grow distant, eventually leading to his death from a heart attack some years ago. He was one of the best friends I ever had. It was really hard after offering so much help over the years. Story 79. Best friend in grade school, middle school, and junior high just started becoming a lot to deal with. It began with friendly banter and jokes, but it gradually became more negative. He essentially belittled me. I was a follower at the time, so I just let it happen. I decided I didn't need a negative friend anymore. We stayed in contact off and on but went years without talking. He joined the military and something clearly changed because when he came back, he seemed less intelligent. He was always somewhat low IQ, but this was borderline as if he should be living in assisted living. I think he had a drinking problem. He is also quite suicidal, and about every 6 months, I have a late-night call with him where I have to talk him down. It's honestly pretty exhausting, but I feel obligated because of our early friendship to help him when he needs it. However, we're so different now that it's like talking to a cat. Story 80. He broke up with his girlfriend of 7 years and started sleeping with 18-year-olds still in high school. I am convinced that the only reason he did not go after younger individuals is because it is illegal. Edit. He was 35 at the time. Story 81. He became an alcoholic, and the last time I saw him, he was a completely broken person. I love him and hope he can turn his life around, but he is in bad shape. Story 82. I just realized it was one-sided. I was there for them through some tough times. Some of my support came at great expense to me. They were never there in return. I had multiple competitions in our town, and they never came to see me compete even once. Story 83. We just drifted apart. He joined the military, and it was hard to keep in contact, so we did not. I tried talking to him after not seeing or hearing from him in 10 years. It was surprisingly awkward. He is still a cool guy. We are just not friends anymore. Story 84. 1. This was a tween or early teen friend. He played soccer with us, and we realized he lived a block away. My dad coached, and my twin brother played too, hence the we. We skated together after school. I brought him into my rebellious, metal, and hardcore playing punk skater friend group. We were really close. My dad was also kind of like a dad to him because his dad was uninvolved. We started smoking weed, cigarettes, drinking, and doing whatever we could get our hands on. My dad was very intrusive about it, and I got grounded a lot. I would sneak over to his place and get high anyway. One night, I was grounded when my dad ran across him and some other friends of ours that my father hated, rightfully so. They both died of heroin overdoses in our 20s. They were smoking in an alley but in full view of the public. My dad called his parents. Things got ugly. Then he got Crohn's disease and isolated himself, and we just stopped talking. I see him every now and again, but there's not much there anymore. I had a good friend in high school who was in my stoner friend group. I floated between them and the partiers or more mainstream popular kids. He was hilarious, super chill, and very smart, as were most of the stoners. We both got into the University of California, Santa Cruz, and went there. I lived in apartment-style dorms which were nice to hang out in, so he basically lived at my place along with other friends. We were inseparable. I helped him through relationships, and he was a great, supportive companion and my drinking buddy. I was obviously an alcoholic. We moved in together for year 2 with some other close friends. I went to rehab and never reconnected. He got a job with Microsoft, then Google, and moved up north. I would like to reach out and see him sometime. Story 85. He lives in the city and I moved to a farm. When I visit him, we still talk as we always do, and it is great fun. Otherwise, we lead separate lives. Story 86. We just grew apart. If there was more to it than that, I have no idea. A 20-year friendship just died out. Story 87. Went to college. He went to a different school and got into drugs. Then he disappeared into rehabilitation for a couple of years. All of that combined led to us not talking anymore. I try to keep up with him on social media. He is doing really well now. He got married and has a child. He grew his hair out very long and looks kind of like a hippie. I still miss him. Story 88. A friend I have known since 1998 is too far away, but he is too lazy to pick me up. He lives very close and could pick me up, but he does not. It seems that when he has a partner, he forgets about his friends. I have distanced myself from him as well. I understand that everything has its end. Story 89. He just drifted away, and despite the occasional message, nothing ever came of it, so I gave up trying. Even if we did meet after all this time, what would there be to say? Story 90. At age 16 to 17, he suddenly cut all contact with me for no reason. I do not know what happened in his mind. Maybe some insecurity or psychological issues. I thought we were good friends. Our mothers still communicate. 10 to 13 years have already passed. Story 91. A 25-year friendship ended because my friend's unstable wife saw me as competition. He asked for a job at my company and gradually moved closer to me, from 6 hours away to 1 block away, then across the street. He also joined every group I was in. He stopped talking to me when I left the company and moved, even during my divorce. He was confused when I said the friendship was over, accusing me of being jealous of his wife and invading his life. I am glad he found love, but I do not want to be involved with that situation. Story 92. We outgrew each other. I wanted to do fun activities outside, while he preferred to stay inside. I recently heard that he lives alone in an apartment and works in technical support. Story 93. I am not even sure. That is the worst part of it. We had been friends since we were children. Then he suddenly became distant in our mid-20s. Story 94. We went through high school together with our whole friend group. No drugs, no alcohol. He went to a different school. He came to my college to hang out and was using ecstasy so he could have fun with me. I felt hurt because we used to have fun doing anything together. There is a photo of us carrying a piano, and the two of us are just laughing so hard. It made it into the yearbook. The thought of him needing to do drugs just to hang out with me hurt me. Story 95. He went the party route and I stayed in school. I looked him up years later when I was back in town visiting family. He was burnt out, cleaning floors at the mall on the overnight shift. I had to buy him a coffee since he had no funds. I was just starting out on my adult life, and his seemed like it was ending. No ill will toward the guy, but we took different paths in life, heading in very opposite directions. That was 30 years ago. I have no idea where he is now since I had already moved out of the area. Story 96. He did not have to work for anything as a child. If he wanted something, it was given to him. When he became an adult, he struggled to accept that being an adult required a lot of work. This quickly led to depression and self-pity. I tried to help him, but we ultimately went our separate ways. Through a series of poor choices, trying to escape adult responsibilities, his life became too depressing to continue. He died a young man. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.